the way that I overcome severe panic attacks, extreme fear, and anxiety, 24/7 anxiety and fear, was I first just tried to figure out what is fear, what actually is it, because if I want to solve it, I need to know what it is. So the first thing I discovered was that fear is the fear of death, and the fear of death is the fear of non-existence. It's the fear that one day I will blip out of existence. And even if we don't experience it like that directly, like it could be the fear of spiders, the fear of getting on stage, the fear of it could be any fear, but ultimately it all boils down to that one fear. And when I realized that, it was very easy then to narrow my focus and understand, well, if it's the fear of death or the fear of non-existence, how can I overcome the fear of death? How do you overcome that? Is that something you can overcome? Are you supposed to be okay with dying? And the problem with my perspective was that I had an assumption of reality. I had an assumption of reality. I had an assumption of what I was. In fact, I didn't even have an assumption of what I was. I didn't know what I was. I never considered that. And I think it's extremely important that the first thing we do to overcome anxiety and fear is to actually inquire, who are you? What actually are you? Not who are you? Are you a man? Are you a woman? Are you a non-binary person? What are you on a fundamental level? What are you actually made of? What is the thing making you aware of your experience? And most people will go, oh, well, that's easy. And even though they've never considered it before in their lives, they will then start to assume, well, it must be my mind or my brain, because science has told me that my brain does things, and I assume it comes from there. So it's science is, by the way, if you haven't done the research yet, science doesn't know where consciousness comes from. This is what we call the hard problem of consciousness. What is lighting up your experience, obviously, is the aware aspect of your experience. So it's a good place to start. Think about it. You've spent decades upon decades focusing on every single other aspect of your experience other than the fact that you are aware. You spend so much time focusing on what you're aware of and what could potentially happen and what has happened, but zero time spent actually focusing and understanding this awareness with which you experience every single thing in your life. Could it be that your answers lay in the one place that you have always ignored, or maybe never even noticed? In my experience, it was. And in the experiences of many, many others, it is. So to really overcome fear and anxiety, the best thing we can do is understand what fear is. Then we need to understand, what am I in reference to the fear? If the fear is ultimately the fear of death, then where am I and where do I stand against that? What is it that dies, and why am I scared of that happening? You'll notice that the only way that you can figure that out is if you understand what actually dies when you die. Now, this will bring you the question as to, is it me that dies, or is it the body and the mind that dies? If you believe you're the body and the mind, you're going to believe that you will die. If you don't believe you're the body and the mind, then you won't believe you'll die. It's pretty simple. Now, I'm not talking about souls and spirits and going to heaven. I'm a very skeptical, very rational person. I wouldn't consider myself to be spiritual, even though I've had a very spiritual path. I wouldn't consider myself to be religious. In fact, the closest thing I could consider myself to be is scientific. And true science bases its facts on direct experience. It doesn't base it on theory. It doesn't base it on assumption. It doesn't base it on inference, even though inference can be a legitimate form of reasoning. It bases it on direct experience. And the direct experience that I recognized is that what I fundamentally am is pure awareness. There's nothing else to qualify myself with. I'm not a thought. I'm not a feeling. I'm not an image, a sensation, a perception, an emotion. I am that which is aware of all perceptions, images, emotions, and feelings. So if that is what I am on a fundamental level, the question is, am I anything else? No. So I've clarified that's all I am. So if you were to run the same investigation, now I share this on my channel, I share it in my private community, you would always come to the same conclusion. And this awareness then, the real question is, when I die, does this awareness die with it? Does it die with it? Is this awareness really what is limited to the body, or is this awareness something that is beyond the body, experiencing the body? Now, when we run through experiments and explorations, and we can look at this in quantum physics, we always find that awareness is fundamental. In other words, you can't have experience of the body and the mind without awareness. So the question then lays, is it awareness that creates the body and the mind, or is it the body and mind that create awareness? It's very easy to establish that truth. Your entire experience is consistently changing, even your brain. Your brain reconstructs itself every 7 to 8 years, including the rest of the body and all its cells. So what this means is that you are continuously having an experience, even though your body is continuously changing, dying, coming back to birth, dying, being reborn in each individual cell. So somehow there's a continuation to experience, and you've never experienced the cessation of experience. And don't combat me with deep sleep, because by nature of knowing that you wake up, you were aware that there was nothing there prior to waking. So that by definition means that you were aware prior to waking, and you were aware in the process of waking, then you were aware when you woke up. Otherwise, there would be no experience of waking up. You would just have one continuous experience. So it's not the experience of no awareness, it's the awareness of no experience. So with that being said, science can prove that awareness does not stop ever, but the body and the mind is continuously ceasing and coming and ceasing and going and ceasing and going. So are all perceptions. So the real question begs, everything is in the favor of consciousness being fundamental. In other words, consciousness being realer than the body and the mind. And when I realized this was huge, because it left me in a position where I didn't know the truth. I didn't know if I'm a body and a mind. I didn't know if I was awareness. I was just open to the possibility. And being open to this possibility left me in a good place, because it took the fear away and it took the anxiety away, because there was a bigger problem or a bigger question in my mind. And the searching for that question left me essentially completely fearless with death. And not just fearless with death, but when you remove the fear of death, you don't really fear much else. You know, and it's unnecessary fear. The body still has fears in terms of if someone's to point a gun to my head, there would be a lot of anxiety. But the suffering that fear imposes and the suffering that fear can create that is unnecessary is just removed. So that is removed when you recognize that you are infinite. So if you are interested in this exploration, if this intrigues you in any way, either check out the rest of my videos, or if you feel like a step further, you can join my free private community where I take people through this process every single week, 4 times a week, for free, like I said. So if you feel like that, check it out. If you liked the video, leave it like, if it helped you in any way. And I know you wanted something tangible, you wanted something that is going to show you exactly how, in this moment, you can just make your anxiety disappear. I mean, the biggest thing that I've learned, especially from Francis Lucille, is that take care of the bigger picture and the smaller pictures will take care of themselves. Don't just focus on the smaller picture, focus on the bigger picture, and that is going to take care of any other problem that you have. And this is bigger picture thinking here. We're not just looking for this instant, quick 10-minute YouTube video, how to kill my anxiety. It doesn't work. It's never worked for anyone. So don't expect that. I'm giving you a real answer here. I'm giving you something that I can directly help you with for free. So if this is something that you want to explore, like I said, feel free to join. Take care. Have an amazing day.